Hello and welcome to this month's Thoughts on Leadership. This month we're talking about recruitment, about skill shortages and about retention. Particularly I'm going to focus on the skills recruitment and skill shortage. Everywhere I go these days, I'm finding that there's articles on this subject. Whether you're picking up management journals or whether I'm looking at HR magazines or just newspapers, anywhere in the world there's these subjects coming up. And it is an issue. It's becoming more and more of an issue as the current population ages and changes, and it's a worldwide issue. In fact, I was reading some very interesting statistics recently, which I wanted to share with you, just to put the thing into context. A recent report by KPMG said that in London, 60% of employers were facing skill shortages already. And a similar report was saying something in the region of about £4,800 it costs to employ somebody these days, the whole process of recruitment and so forth. So there are issues. If you think, those of you in other parts of the world, United States, here's some figures for you. 40% of the current workforce will be retired by 2010. 20%, yeah, it's just, to me, is an incredible amount. A fifth of US companies are saying that they will lose 40% of their talent when their chief executives retire. So these sort of figures are a little bit frightening. Now, I want to give you some more figures which are in a slightly different vein, because I believe that this gets to the nub of what we want to talk about here for this month. 68% of people interviewed in an organization were talking about bad hires, bad promotions. 60% of them, 68% of them blamed the bad hire and promotions for lower productivity. In other words, productivity fell as a result of a poor hire or a poor promotion. And then a further 66% of them said that it affected morale. And a further 54% of them said that they knew that it was losing customers. That's the impact of poor recruitment and poor promotions. If we look at that into terms of productivity for our country, £46 million is what that could be cost in just pure lost productivity or lost working days. So we're talking about something that is going to impact the bottom line in a significant way. So what do we need to do to look at this? What do organizations need to really get to grips with? Well, against all these figures I've given you, there is another backdrop I want you to consider. And that is the generation coming into work now, the 20-year-olds, even the 30-year-olds, the new generation of employee that's coming through, has a different attitude to work. Their attitude to work is, there's some statistics that came out in October last year saying that the average university student will probably have 19 jobs in his career or her career. So that means they're going to be changing jobs every 2 to 5 years. Some statistics came out again earlier this year which said that the average student these days will probably change their career 3 to 5 times. Now, if you're changing your career 3 to 5 times and your job sort of 19 times in your career, then the whole issue of recruitment and retention has to be looked at in a different way. We can't go on thinking that our job is to try and get the perfect person who's going to stay with us for life, and if we get the right person, all we need to do is retain them. It doesn't matter how good an employer you are, it doesn't matter how nice you are, no matter what wonderful benefits you have. If they're bored or if they're wanting a change, they're going to move on, because that is the attitude of the generation coming in. So the questions we need to face now and look at going forward into the future is, what is our strategy for recruitment? One of the things I'd like to ask you is, who's in charge of your HR strategy, your recruitment strategy? Have you given it to HR department? To me, it baffles me that those organizations that think that this is an HR issue. This is a board management issue these days. When you're looking at your business plan, when you're looking at the strategy for your business, the first thing that needs to be considered in alignment with that is your recruitment and retention strategy. How are you going to get these people, and how are you going to keep them for the period of time necessary for your business to achieve your business plan? That means it's a board decision. The whole process of recruitment is going to have to be taken a lot more seriously than it's been done in the past. So I'm asking you to consider these sort of questions going forward. I'm asking you to think about, what is your strategy? Who is in charge of it? Are your management at every level thinking it through? And I'm going to keep returning to these questions and these issues around this whole subject over the next year, as I'm making a specific point at looking at organizations that I'm visiting to find out how they are approaching recruitment and retention issues. And what are they doing about skill shortages? And as I discover that, I will share stuff with you as we go forward. So, I want to give you some tips to take away with you with this month's Thoughts on Leadership. I had a very, very interesting interview a few months ago with a guy by the name of Arthur Gillis, who's Chief Executive of Protea Hotels, which is the largest hotel group in Africa. And an amazing organization, well worth visiting and staying at if you're in Africa. I found it very interesting because I asked Arthur in particular to share with me what his philosophy was on recruitment. I wanted to understand what his mindset was about recruitment. And I want you to listen in to some of the things that he said.
How do you go about then recruiting that team and putting it together?
Well, today we have 10,000 employees, so you know it's as important today as it was then.
Yeah.
Okay. Besides the obvious stuff like, you know, can you work in this location, and you know, do we meet your objectives? I do a couple of things. The first thing that I do is I will quiz somebody about our company.
Yeah.
And about the industry. And God help them if they don't know. I will terminate the discussion right there and then.
Yeah.
How many hotels do we have? What areas are we located? Who the shareholders comprise? What is our percentage of black economic empowerment equity? And so on and so forth. Just fire 40, 50 questions at them. If they don't know that, frankly, they're wasting their time and mine by walking in the door.
Right.
The kind of person.
So, interesting comments that he's made there. And that was just the first question that he asks people. That's the first thing he is trying to identify, and if people aren't being forthcoming with the answers, in other words, they haven't done the research, they haven't shown the passion, then he's not interested. But he then went on and shared with me his other two questions. And his other two questions are, I asked people to tell me a story. I believe that in our business, the ability to tell a story is a critical part of dealing with our customers and guests, or even himself as the owner. So the first question was all around what they knew about the industry. The second question was asking them to tell them a story, something that's happened to them in their lives. He wants to know how good they are at telling a story, how good they are at explaining things. And then the third question was, tell me something that has made you laugh and something that's funny that's happened to you. He says, in our business, we need to have the ability to laugh at ourselves. If you can't laugh at ourselves, then you certainly won't be able to deal with the customers, which I thought was quite funny. My point to you is this, and I really want to, you as the managing director out there, the chief executive, the manager of a department, whoever you are listening to this, my question to you is this: what are your three questions when you're interviewing? Have you got clearly in your mind the three questions that you asked, that if they don't answer those questions, interview terminated? End of story. Because if those people haven't got those qualities here, and this is the way I want you to think about it, if they can't answer those questions to your satisfaction, all they're going to do is come into your business, be energy thieves, and be unhappy themselves. You know, this is not about being difficult with your staff. It's not about being, you know, picking people, and I'm not, you know, against legislation that we've got in this country, although I do think it's over the top and it's measuring the wrong things, but that's another story. I'm not going against the law in terms of equality and everything. What I'm saying is, if you've got the wrong person and they're unhappy, it's not fair on them either. And it's certainly not going to help you drive your business forward. So, there's some thoughts for this month. There's some questions. The challenges are there. It's how good you are at thinking through the process. It's how good you are at planning through what you're doing in terms of recruitment. I will share lots more over the coming year with you as I do more research in this area, and we'll keep coming back to this, and hopefully I can bring you some more tips and more ideas, and in the new product that we're bringing out, you're going to be able to tap into some of that as well. Have a really, really great month, and I hope this has been very helpful. And thanks for listening as always. Bye for now.